My name's Rosie Lovett. I'm a researcher at the UCL Ear Institute, and I carry out research into the listening and language skills of children with hearing impairment. A hearing aid is an electronic device that's worn by people who have hearing impairment, and essentially it amplifies sound, it boosts the level, makes it louder. So people who struggle to detect sounds at normal everyday levels, the hearing aid will amplify it so that they can hear that sound. So there's one here, they're absolutely tiny, and what we've got is this plastic casing, and that contains a microphone so that can pick up the signal that's all around us, and also it contains a lot of electronics that process that sound and boost the level of the sound, and that's then transmitted down through this clear plastic tubing to this part here, which sits at the entrance to your ear canal. And that delivers the amplified signal, which then moves through your middle ear and through to your inner ear. So they're used by people with maybe mild up to severe or profound hearing loss. So these people might struggle to have conversations at normal everyday levels, but if they're wearing a hearing aid, then that brings the level of the speech high enough that they can understand it, or for a lot of people they can understand it. So they're worn just by putting this plastic part behind your ear. So I'll try and put it on. So there we go. So with these ones, once they're on, this part behind the ear is pretty much invisible, and then this clear plastic tip would swing round and go into the entrance to my ear canal there. A cochlear implant is an electronic device, and it consists of two parts, an internal part and an external part. So the internal part consists of an array of electrodes that are surgically placed inside the inner ear, which is also known as the cochlea. And then externally you've got a microphone that detects sound in the environment, and also a processor that processes that sound and transmits it through the skin to the internal part of the cochlear implant. So this is a way of bypassing the missing or malfunctioning parts of the auditory system and directly stimulating the auditory nerve, which is the nerve of hearing. So they tend to be used for individuals who are profoundly deaf, and it doesn't restore normal hearing, but it does give much better hearing on average than would be achieved with a hearing aid for somebody with a profound loss. So for instance, children who are given cochlear implants at a young age, most of them go on to learn spoken language rather than sign language, if that's what their family want. Cochlear implants can be worn by adults or by children, and in children they're provided at quite a young age, so children have the surgery between the ages of 1 and 3 if they're born deaf. Typically, and traditionally cochlear implants have only been provided to patients who are profoundly deaf. Some other countries are now starting to give them to children or to adults who have severe deafness, so they've got a bit more residual hearing than those who are profoundly deaf. And I'm actually interested in this very question, so who should be given the option of cochlear implants? So what I'm doing at the moment is coordinating a study to compare outcomes for children who use 2 cochlear implants, 1 in each ear, and children who use 2 hearing aids, 1 in each ear. And what I'm doing is measuring children's listening skills and language skills and comparing outcomes for the 2 groups, so the group of hearing aid users and the group of cochlear implant users. So that in the future we should be able to guide decisions about what's in the best interests of children, which device they might be better off with. So there's people all over the world working to try and make hearing aids and cochlear implants better. So one example would be that pitch perception, so hearing music say, it's actually quite poor with a cochlear implant at the moment, which is because of the way the device works. It doesn't deliver very good information about the pitch of sound, and there's lots of people trying to improve that by improving the electrode array or by improving the signal processing that the device does. There are other people who are trying to come up with drugs that help to preserve the hair cells, so cells in the inner ear that detect sound, trying to preserve those cells when an implant is put into the ear. So some time ago, if you had a cochlear implant, it would destroy all of your residual hearing, whereas now people are trying to come up with ways of preserving that residual hearing so people can carry on using that in conjunction with the cochlear implant. And one thing that's happening with both hearing aids and cochlear implants is it's now quite common for people to have two devices, one on each side of the head. And they used to be completely independent, so they didn't talk to each other at all. Whereas now lots of people are trying to create binaural devices that communicate with each other and deliver a coordinated signal to both ears. And if we get it right, that will help with things like speech perception in noisy environments, and also working out where sounds are coming from, so localising the source of sound. I'd actually like to give my hearing impaired superhero 3 new inventions because I'm a bit greedy. The first one is, at the moment, if you put a cochlear implant into the inner ear, then the electrode delivers an electrical signal, but the nerves that it's trying to stimulate are actually quite a long way away. So what I would do is develop a drug that you could coat the electrode array in this drug, and it would attract nerve fibres towards it. And that would mean you get a really nice connection between the electrode that's delivering the signal and the neuron that's receiving the signal. And that would make the perception of sound that you get much better, much higher quality. So that's my first thing. My second thing might make it much easier for my superhero to communicate with other people. And that would be a magic wand that he could wave, and immediately whoever he was trying to communicate with would know sign language to a very high level. Because sign language is a great way of communicating, but it's difficult because not that many people know it. So if my superhero knew sign language, then he had a magic wand, and whoever he wanted to talk to would be able to communicate to him in sign. My third invention for my superhero would be a kind of medicine that he could give to all of his normally hearing friends, so that when they went to somewhere that was going to be a very loud environment, like a rock concert, they could take this medicine beforehand and it would work to protect their ears. Because quite often people go to a lot of concerts or loud environments when they're young and they're damaging their hearing without knowing it. And it's only later in life they realise that they then have hearing problems because of all the noise exposure back when they were younger. So if we could develop this medicine, then it would help people to protect their hearing and maintain it into later life.